Imani only walked 3 blocks, less than 10 minutes, and vanished like Baton Rouge never even knew her name. It was a clear Saturday morning. No rain, just a quiet day in an ordinary neighborhood in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. 16-year-old Imani Carter was an honor student, the daughter of LaToya Carter, a night shift nurse. That morning, like so many others, she left the house just after 8:30 a.m. She had her phone, an orange backpack, and a warm croissant in hand for breakfast. Before heading out, she texted her, "Mom, I'm stopping by the shop real quick, then I'll come home for breakfast." It was 8:10 a.m. She walked the same familiar route. She always took 3 short blocks to the small bakery where she worked part-time, a path she had walked hundreds of times over the past 2 years. Nothing about that morning stood out. No one saw her in distress. No one reported anything strange. There were no shouts, no sudden movements, no red flags. But just 14 minutes after that last text, Imani's phone went silent. And from that moment forward, she was gone. Police said maybe she ran away, but her mother knew better. Imani had left behind the sandwich she made for her little sister, and someone who's planning to run away doesn't take the time to make breakfast for the person they love. Days passed, then weeks, then months, and still nothing. No messages, no sightings, no answers, only a silence that grew heavier with time. Then, on a warm summer morning, exactly 1 year since Imani disappeared, a jogger called 911. She had seen something odd near a rusted fence by a vacant lot. Hanging there, neatly draped, was a pink striped shirt, the same shirt Imani used to wear, the one that disappeared with her. And now it had come back, without warning, without reason, like a whisper returned to the world. Too late to explain, too loud to ignore. Before her name appeared on missing person posters, eyes wide, bright, staring straight into the lens like she was asking the world a question. Imani Carter was just a regular high school girl, or at least that's how the world saw her. To her mother and younger sister, Imani was the heart of their home. She was the one who set her alarm earlier than her mother. Every morning, brewed the coffee, always, adding an extra spoon of brown sugar because her mom forgot. She reheated dinner for LaToya when she came home from her hospital, shift close to midnight. She was the one who stepped in, where a father had once been walking her little sister Jada to school after their dad left, back when Jada was still crawling. Imani played the violin not to be a professional musician, she once said during a scholarship interview, but because when I play, it feels like someone's listening, even if the room is empty. Music for her filled the quiet spaces of their small third-floor apartment. She was good at math, loved tech, and made it to the state finals in a STEM competition for black girls. But she never bragged. Mom's already doing enough, and Jada's still a kid. As long as I do good, no need to make a fuss, she once told her best friend, Keisha. Her friends called her the heartbeat, not because she was always on time, though she was, but because Imani had a way of keeping things steady. When friends fought, she calmed the room. When someone failed a test, she found the answers. She didn't talk much, didn't post selfies or chase likes, but she was present, always. The kind of presence that grounded people. Teachers remembered her name. The school security guard waved at her every morning. Neighbors trusted her to watch their pets, even if they'd only met her once. Imani never had any major conflicts. No parties, no late nights, nothing that ever made her mother worry long. Even her weekend job at the bakery, she asked permission, showed her schedule, and only then asked for approval. She was the kind of student teachers wanted more of, but the kind of girl the media often overlooks. Not brilliant enough to be a, prodigy, not troubled enough to raise headlines. Just a regular black girl. And maybe that's what made her story so easy to silence. LaToya Carter was never the type to speak in front of crowds. She didn't write long captions on Facebook or post videos about grief. After 12 years as a nurse in a public hospital, she'd grown used to being in the background, listening to patients, breathe, watching ventilators, blink, staying calm when others panicked. But since Imani disappeared, everything inside her unraveled. There's no vital sign to monitor mother's fear when her child vanishes in broad daylight. No prescription for the nightmares that come at 2 a.m. No nursing training that teaches you how to make a sandwich for Esu, daughter who may never come home. LaToya tried to stay logical. The police said there were no signs of a struggle, no suspicious messages, no camera footage. Maybe, just maybe, Imani had gone somewhere on her own. But then she saw the nightgown Imani wore, still soft with fabric, softener, her pillow still neatly arranged, the TV remote resting on an unfinished physics book, and most of all, the thermos with a photo of the three of them still sitting in the cabinet, the one Imani always took to work. The morning Imani went missing, LaToya had fallen asleep on the couch. She woke up at 8:40 a.m. Her daughter's last message was at 8:10. For the first time in years of being a mother, she hadn't woken up in time to say good morning. And for months after, she couldn't forgive herself. It wasn't her fault. Everyone said that. But being a single black mother in a world where you have to try twice, as hard to be seen, LaToya had learned to carry everything like it was hers alone. Over the past year, she worked full-time, printed missing posters, and held her youngest daughter. Together, Jada, just 9, suddenly without her sister. It was Jada who kept her standing. The day LaToya nearly broke down at the kitchen table, after spotting Imani's sandals still lined up. Neatly by the door, Jada placed her hand on her mom's shoulder and whispered, "If Imani's alive, I don't think she'd want you this sad." Mom. LaToya didn't know if her daughter was alive, but she knew this. Imani didn't just walk away. And if there was any chance, any window at all, Imani was trying to come back. The neighborhood where Imani lived sat in the middle of Baton Rouge, not affluent, but not unsafe. A place where neighbors knew each other by name, where moms swapped babysitting shifts, where Sunday mornings meant folding chairs on porches and hot coffee and hand. People there knew Imani. They knew she worked at the bakery, that her little sister played badminton in the afternoons, that her mom was the nurse with the kind smile. So when she disappeared, the first reaction was disbelief. No way, probably just a mix-up. She'll be home tomorrow. But the days passed. 1 week. 2. Posters at the gas station were torn by rain. The banner on the school fence began to fade. Initial worry gave way to helplessness. Then silence. Not because people didn't care, but because they didn't know what else to do. Every alley had been searched. Every phone number had gone cold. Police only returned when media pressure flared, and the media, frankly, didn't flare for a missing black girl without a headline hook. Every neighborhood has its quiet observers. Miss Odette, 72, who lived across the street, said, "That girl, she nodded at me every morning, croissant in hand. But the day she vanished, I didn't see anyone walk by." Mr. Reuben, the mail carrier, remembered, "I saw an orange backpack under the bus stop bench that Monday. When I came back, it was gone." Everyone had a sliver of memory, but none of it added up, and none of it was certain. The neighborhood moved on. Kids still rode bikes down Imani's old path. Shops still opened early. The bakery still sold her favorite croissants. But there was an absence in a mother's gaze, in a sister's tone, in how people avoided saying her name. An emptiness everyone felt, but no one dared to name. 6 months in, a volunteer group suggested clearing the prayer table. at the Central Park. Maybe it's time to let it go. But the woman who ran the hair salon down the yacht street walked out, laid a flower on the table, and gently shook her head. As long as there's no answer, she said, this table still has a reason to stay. Imani may no longer be present, but her name still carries weight, like a question that never got its answer, floating above a community that once felt safe, now quietly afraid it could happen again. Imani left the house at 8:10 a.m. on Tuesday, a Saturday morning. Her final message to her mom read, I'm stopping by the shop real quick, then I'll come home for breakfast. Just 14 minutes later, her phone went silent. The last GPS ping placed her near the intersection of 17th Street and Mayflower Avenue, just half a block from the bakery where she worked. But the security camera at the nearby convenience store wasn't working that morning. The reason listed in the report? Delayed maintenance schedule. And the city bus stop camera? It had been taken down a month prior for upgrades. No one panicked at first. LaToya assumed Imani had overslept or gotten caught up in work. But by noon, with no answer to her, calls and unread messages piling up, a deep unease began to settle in. By 4 p.m., LaToya went to the bakery herself. The shop owner looked at her, confused. She didn't show today. I figured she asked for the day off. By 6 p.m., LaToya called the police. The first question from the dispatcher was, how old is she? The second, any history of self-harm? It took another 14 hours before an official missing person report was filed. Standard protocol, they said. On day one, LaToya, neighbors, and Imani's close friends spread out across the neighborhood, bus stops, corner stores, public restrooms, even the abandoned field near the old ball courts where her friend group used to hang out. But there was nothing. No dropped shoes, no phone, no signs of a struggle. It was like Imani had never walked that path at all. On day 3, a postal worker named Marvin called the police. I saw in Yatse, orange backpack under the bus bench. At 17th on Monday, he said. Looked just like the one Imani always carried. But when officers arrived, it was gone. No one saw who took it. No security footage. No witnesses. No trace. On day 5, an envelope arrived at Isiad, the Carter home. No return address. Inside was a single ballpoint, pen purple, with her name engraved. Imani Carter, STEM Fair, April. It was the exact pen LaToya had custom ordered and gifted her daughter when Imani was selected to represent her school at the spring science fair. That pen had been kept in the drawer of her desk and vanished the day she did. No one could explain it. Who had the pen? Why mail it back? And why now, without a note, without a word? Police called it a likely hoax, but LaToya didn't believe that. If it was just a cruel prank, she said, why choose the one thing with her name in the font, to say, picked from a moment only our family truly celebrated? Each piece, the vanished backpack, the returned pen, felt like fragments of a message from somewhere no one could name. The official search lasted 3 weeks. Hundreds of flyers went up across the neighborhood. Local news gave the case 45 seconds on the evening broadcast. A K-9 unit swept the nearby park. Nothing was found. By the 4th week, interest began to fade. People started saying things like, maybe she ran away, or teenagers, could have been a fight with her mom. But the people who truly knew Imani knew better. She wasn't the type to vanish. She wasn't the type to worry her family. And she definitely wasn't the kind of girl who'd leave home after making a sandwich for her little sister that morning. After nearly 2 months without a trace, Imani Carter's disappearance began, slipping into a gray zone where no one could say for sure what was real, and every fragment of information became a question mark. One afternoon in mid-September, Keisha, Imani's best friend, was called in by detectives for a follow-up interview. 17 years old, braids neatly, tied back, eyes tired, but steady. Imani used to mention someone named Reggie, she told them. Said he worked at the STEM center we interned at over the summer. Investigators took note and began scanning the center's records. But no one named Reggie had ever worked there. Not as staff, not as a contractor. Even the evening security guard said he'd never heard that name. They reviewed cameras, footage, nothing. No matches. The trail to Reggie evaporated into thin air. The following week, a former school coach told Imani's mom something that had stuck with him. I once saw a middle-aged man standing outside the fence during practice, watching the kids. Didn't say anything. Didn't move. Just stood there. I assumed he was an early arriving parent, but he couldn't recall the date. And the field security cameras? Broken. Pending funding for new equipment. Another blank space. Back at home, Latoya began combing through her daughter's old messages. In one conversation with Keisha, Imani had written, Reggie told the Asa funniest stories about his time mentoring at the center. He knows so much. A little weird, but sweet. Latoya froze at the words, a little weird. It was the kind of phrase her daughter used when she wasn't sure how to feel about someone. But who was Reggie? If he wasn't employed by the center, how had he gained access and why? While police were still stuck trying to confirm a name, a seemingly small detail shifted the direction of the search. Celeste, a neighbor 2 doors down, recalled something unusual. One morning in the summer, I saw Imani talking to a man near a silver car parked by the curb. She said. I couldn't see his face. It was backlit. But I remember how Imani stood, about 2 feet away, hands behind her back. Not scared, but not at ease. Either. Celeste didn't recall the exact date, but she remembered one thing. Clearly, Imani didn't smile. Didn't nod like she always did. It was the only time Celeste had seen her look different. No clear ID. No cameras. Just vague recollections. But slowly, these scraps began to layer. Reggie, the man at the fence, the silver car, Imani stepping slightly back. A picture was forming. Faint, blurred, but real enough to feel someone had been watching her. Someone who didn't belong in the neighborhood. The silver car became a focus for local volunteers. A group of young residents started mapping reported sightings of unfamiliar vehicles parked too long. They gathered anecdotes from neighbors, not with formal tools, but with the kind of collective memory often overlooked in underserved communities. Within 3 weeks, they collected 7 different accounts from 4 nearby streets. One person remembered a license plate starting with G. Another noted a gator sticker on the rear window. Every clue was small, but when overlapped, a pattern emerged. The car showed up early in the mornings, idled without reason, and no one ever saw anyone get out. A man named Andre, night guard at a nearby furniture store, recalled seeing that car multiple times. Engine running, parked, but motionless for 10 to 15 minutes. It felt like someone was just watching, he said. He had logged the sightings in his shift journal. Only after hearing about Imani did he review the entries, and one of the dates matched the exact Saturday she disappeared. Andre couldn't recall the plate, but noted a dent on the rear right side of the vehicle. That detail finally pushed the police to run a search for registered silver vehicles with similar damage within a 5-mile radius. 11 cars matched. 8 were ruled out, verified to be elsewhere that morning. The other 3, the police didn't disclose. No arrests were made. Meanwhile, another clue surfaced from an unexpected source, Imani's science tutor, Mrs. Jenkins. A Caribbean woman in her 50s, she remembered something odd from a few weeks before the disappearance. Imani had arrived unusually early for tutoring, not to study, but to borrow laptop. She said her home computer was slow and she had a deadline. I stepped out for about 10 minutes. When I came back, she was gone. Took 20 minutes to return. Told me she had to make a phone call. When I asked who to, she didn't answer. At the time, Mrs. Jenkins thought it was personal. Teenagers have secrets. But now, that gap in time didn't feel so small, especially since Imani rarely arrived early, never without a clear reason. After hearing this, Latoya searched her daughter's room. Again, she found a scrap of paper tucked inside a notebook, not standard school paper, but the back of an tas. Old receipt, scribbled in pale blue ink. Saturday, 8:30. If nothing, walk away. If yes, check the rear view. The Sosaceto handwriting looked like Imani's, but analysts couldn't confirm it. The note raised more questions than answers. Walk away from where? Check the rear view for what? Was she planning something or sensing something? By the third month of the investigation, the case wasn't just about missing leads. It was about a system-wide silence. Not from the community, but from those meant to speak. When Latoya requested traffic cam footage from 3 intersections near Imani's last known location, she was told data not stored past 30 days. When volunteers asked to collaborate with investigators, police replied, "We won't stop you, but tamper with evidence, and there will be consequences." When a Black victims advocacy group pitched the story to national media, only one outlet responded and aired the segment at 5 a.m. But the silence wasn't just official. It showed up in tiny, uncomfortable truths. Keisha had once told police she didn't really know Reggie, but later records showed she had sent a meme to a contact saved as R, mentor. When asked again, she shrugged. Could have been someone else. People change names in their contacts all the time. Keisha wasn't charged. She was still a minor, but her uncertainty didn't erase the growing sense that something wasn't being said. From Latoya's side, a different kind of exhaustion set in. The burden of proving her daughter deserved to be searched for. Again and again, she had to answer. Has Imani ever skipped class? Are you sure she never mentioned wanting to leave? Anyone in the family with a criminal record? Each question, maybe unintentional, chipped away at her sense of belonging, as if Imani had to meet some invisible moral standard before her. Case was taken seriously. And it wasn't just the Carters. According to the Black and Missing Foundation, missing cases involving Black youth, especially girls, receive on average 50% less media attention than similar cases involving white victims. Even within the investigation, cracks formed. A lower-ranking officer was overheard saying she was probably lured out while panicked. This kind of disappearance, no screams, no signs. It's usually someone they trust. When that reached Latoya, she didn't respond. She just sat quietly at the kitchen table beside the frozen plate of breakfast Imani had prepared that morning, a silent ellipsis. No one knew how to end. Things may not have moved forward, but one thing was becoming clear. Someone had reached out to Imani. Someone made her change her routine. Someone she mentioned, if only briefly, in conversations no one fully understood. And in the absence of clear answers, it's the fragmented pieces, the inconsistencies, the systemic gaps that allowed her disappearance to persist. Without anyone able to stop it, a year after Imani's disappearance, Baton Rouge had learned to live with an unanswered story. But for the Carter family, every day still felt like the first. No news, no reason, no closure. They didn't hold a memorial or anniversary ceremony. Latoya insisted Imani hasn't been proven gone. She's still considered alive. So, on the early morning of the same 1-year mark, when a woman jogging called 911 after finding an unusual item hung on a fence beside an abandoned lot, no one expected the case to be reactivated. The witness described a pink striped shirt hung neatly as if someone just placed it there less than an hour ago. Police arrived at the scene, an overgrown lot once. Willow Lane Park closed for years and found exactly that. Pink and white cotton tee, youth-sized, remarkably clean. No dirt, no blood, no tears or musty smell. Inside the collar label, someone had written in faded marker, "I see." Latoya needed no more than a second to confirm it. "I bought that from an outlet around Thanksgiving last year," she said, voice trembling. But sure, she loved stripes. They were cheerful, not dull like solid colors. But what shook me wasn't the shirt, it was the smell. She held it to her nose, comfort lavender. Fabric softener, a scent Latoya had used on Imani's clothes since she was 10. I know that smell. I washed it myself, and I haven't seen that shirt since the morning she walked out. The return of the shirt, after a full year of silence, shattered them with hope and dread. If someone had kept it all this time, they were still watching, and returning it clean and intentional meant it was deliberate. Police seized the shirt for testing. No foreign DNA, no hairs, no fingerprints. It was either carefully washed or never worn again. This only increased Latoya's fear. Someone knew enough about my daughter to keep her shirt and waited for the right day to return. In hushed tones, neighbors began whispering, "Could she be back?" a child asked after seeing Latoya cry at a news report. If the shirt found its way home, why didn't she? No one knew how to answer, and yet the question revealed something painful. Returning the shirt wasn't proof of life. It was proof that the silent watcher remained. Since her arrival, Latoya hasn't slept through a basayo night. She wakes at 2 a.m. to walk the house, open Imani's old keepsake. Box, sit before last year's family. Photo. Not because the shirt reopened pain, but because it rekindled hope. And hope, like a blade, can heal or cut deeper. Police reopened the case, focused on the abandoned lot. Once Willow Lane Park, it closed after a restroom fire years ago. Now knee-high weeds, fallen trees, feral cats and rats, yet no one understood how a clean shirt got placed on the rusted fence at dawn. No cameras, no witnesses. And once again, traffic cameras had been down the past 48 hours, this time due to a power outage. Authorities deployed heat sensors, infrared devices, and K9 teams. Zero findings. Then, by chance, an architecture student group posted photos of that. Lot taken just 2 days before the Ketchokyan. Shirt was found. No shirt. Nothing on the fence. It meant the shirt appeared within a 48-hour window, deliberately placed, not stumbled upon. Local media finally picked up the story. Latoya declined interviews. Don't need promises, she said. I need answers. Still, people began to speak. A 13-year-old boy from a nearby public housing said he once saw a man in a gray knit hat standing by the fence like he was waiting. He didn't tell anyone at the time. Mom said not to involve myself in adult matters. When police released a sketch, the boy remembered. Thin, beard, tall, wearing an old coat, never made eye contact. They ran his description against old reports. No match, but Latoya recognized him. I remember someone like that, Chirapa said, recalling a spring parent-teacher meeting. No one knew who he was, just another late-arriving face. The memory had passed, until now too vivid to ignore. What seemed like a silent, harmless shirt was now a signal. Someone continues watching. Someone continues caring enough, or wanting, to remind. 3 nights after the shirt appeared, Latoya heard a small clack behind the house, like metal touching the railing. She turned on lights. Nothing. No footprints. But the next morning, in the Tatos mailbox, a small item wrapped in newspaper. No envelope. No writing. Inside, a white plastic button with a silver rim scratched with a cross. She opened an old photo of Imani outside school last spring, a single, matching button on the denim jacket sleeve. She remembered sewing it on when it came loose. Latoya took the button to police. This time, tests found no fingerprints, but dark fibers like from polyester blend knit gloves. Perhaps the person wore gloves, perhaps not. But one thing was clear. Someone was playing a silent game. No threats, no demands. Just inanimate pieces, shirt, button saying, "I'm still here." Meanwhile, Imani's 9-year-old sister, Jada, began showing anxiety. Nighttime dreams of her sister, standing under a street lamp, quiet, unseeing, neither calling nor crying, just watching. Latoya took her to therapy, but nothing shook her more than Jada's whispered question, if she came back but wasn't allowed to. "Speak, would you know?" It was a slow-burning knife to her soul, the fear that Imani was still alive, but silenced. The neighborhood grew wary. Some parents forbade kids from walking alone in the morning. Rumors spread. Maybe Imani did something wrong, or maybe there's something in the family. They're hiding. Latoya didn't blame them. When fear has no shape, people create their own. What she could not tolerate was forgetting. The return of the shirt and button, painful as it was, also told her something. The watcher was testing boundaries, seeing how long she'd hold on. She would not let go. A mother who lost her child in Baton. Broad daylight cannot afford the luxury of letting go. Her fear is no longer something to avoid. It's the only thing that keeps her walking. A year after Imani's disappearance, Baton Rouge had learned to live with the unanswered. But for the Carter family, each day still felt like the first. No news, no reasons, no conclusions. They never held a memorial because, Latoya insisted, Imani hasn't been proven lost. She's still considered alive, Shiktaste. So, on the morning of the first anniversary, when a jogger called, 911 about a pink striped shirt hung on a fence beside the abandoned Willow Lane lot, no one expected the case to reopen. It was a neatly hung, youth-sized cotton tee, clean, unworn, labeled. Inside, with faded letters, "I see." Latoya immediately recognized it. "I bought that at the outlet for her last Thanksgiving," she said, voice trembling. She loved stripes because they looked cheerful. But what shook me wasn't the shirt. It was the smell. It carried the familiar scent of lavender, comfort fabric softener she'd used since Imani was 10. "I washed it myself. I haven't seen that shirt since the morning she walked out." This returned shirt, after a year of silence, shattered them with hope and dread. Whoever kept it was still watching. Whoever returned it did so deliberately. Police tested it. No foreign DNA, no hair, no fingerprints. It was carefully washed or never worn again. They knew the right day to return it, Latoya whispered. Neighbors began to wonder, "Is she back?" A child asked. "If the shirt came home, why didn't she?" No one knew the answer, but that question revealed the hardest truth. The shirt didn't guarantee life, and it revealed the silent watcher remained. Latoya hasn't slept soundly in months. She wakes at 2 a.m., opens keepsake boxes, stares at old family photos. The shirt didn't reopen pain. It reopened hope, wielding a blade, sharp enough to either heal or destroy. Police reopened the inquiry, sweeping the overgrown lot with thermal cameras, infrared devices, and K9 units. No traces found. A student group's survey photos from 2 days prior showed no sign of the shirt. It hadn't just been there. It was placed deliberately within a tight time window. Finally, media attention returned. Latoya refused interviews. "I don't need promises," she said. "I need answers." Then a 13-year-old from nearby housing came forward. "I saw a man in a gray beanie by the Cabcafate fence, like he was waiting. Afraid to tell anyone at the Bastille church. My mom said to stay out of adult things. The sketch matched no name in police files, but Latoya remembered the stranger, too, from a spring PTA meeting. She'd dismissed it then, but now the memory was too glaring to ignore. This shirt wasn't just a relic, it was a signal. He was still there. He was not done. 3 nights later, Latoya heard a tiny click-click outside her back door. Metal, brushing against wood. Nothing. No footprints. But the next morning, a small, newspaper-wrapped package appeared in her mailbox. Inside, a white plastic button with a silver rim scratched with a cross. Its twin had sat on Imani's denim sleeve that spring something. Latoya had sewn back on after her. Daughter said it was loose. Latoya brought it to police. Again, no prints, only dark fibers from polyester knit gloves. A deliberate delivery. No words. No threats. Just silent items. A shirt, a safety dog. Button. One message. I'm still here. Meanwhile, Imani's 9-year-old sister, Jada, began having anxious dreams of her sister standing under a street lamp, silent, unreachable. In therapy, Jada whispered, if she came back, but couldn't talk, would you know? It pierced Latoya. What if Imani was alive, but silenced? The neighborhood grew uneasy. Parents forbade morning walks. Rumors suggested Imani must have done something wrong. Latoya didn't blame them. Fear without form always fills in its own shape. What she couldn't accept was forgetting. These painful returns, the shirt, the button, reminded her someone was testing her limits. Someone wanted to see how long she would endure, and she would not let go. Because a mother who lost her child in broad daylight has no luxury of letting go, fear became her guide. And in that fear, she found the strength to keep moving forward. 3 years have passed since Imani disappeared. The neighborhood where the Carter family lives has changed. A new mini-market stands nearby. The bakery where Imani once worked has a new owner and a freshly selling painted orange-yellow sign. Most of the neighborhood's children don't remember her name as a person. They know her only as the missing girl from legend. But Isasterin, Latoya's heart, her daughter's, memory hasn't faded. It's simply evolved into something smaller, more intimate. Every morning, Latoya wakes early and places a slice of bread in the toaster to eat, but because Imani once said, the smell of toasted bread makes me feel safe. A little chair by the window still holds the blanket Imani used when studying. Late. Latoya doesn't wash it, doesn't tidy it. Not out of fear of forgetting, but because she fears that if everything becomes too neat, it will feel as though Imani never lived here at all. When she's tired, Latoya sits and gazes toward the street where her daughter once rode. Her bike to work, walked her sister to school, waved goodbye to her mom before rounding the corner. Each time she does not cry. She simply closes her eyes and whispers, "Are you okay today, my love?" Though most of the community has grown quieter, a few souls still silently remember. Imani's former math teacher, Ms. Monroe, dedicates the first lesson of each school year to a student who excelled in math and environmental science. Her body may be missing, but her ideas are still here, she tells her students. In the school library, a small reading nook, Imani's Corner, was created through donations, a low bookshelf, a cushion, a photo, and a plaque reading, "For dreams still, waiting to be fulfilled." Jada, Imani's younger sister, is now 12. She speaks less and is more reserved, but each night she still draws a small picture, folds it, and places it in the little mailbox. In her room, the same place where Imani once left teasing notes. One evening, Latoya found a drawing that read, "If you can hear me, leave a sign. I won't tell anyone." Under it was a tiny circle divided into 4, the sister's secret symbol. Latoya carefully refolded and tucked it back, offering no show response. She understood everyone holds on to their loved ones in different ways. This is how Jada keeps hope alive. For Latoya, Memories aren't meant to be relived in sorrow. They are the anchor that keeps her from falling into despair. If Imani truly has been taken at stage, at least something of her remains, living in how people remember her. And if there's one final gift she can offer her daughter, it's to keep that memory burning long, enough so that should Imani ever return, she won't have to start over. One April morning, while cleaning the window, Latoya spotted something small near the backyard fence. She picked it up and her heart skipped a beat. It was a purple, fine-tipped felt pen, the exact kind Imani used for bullet journaling. No name engraved, no unique scratch, but the moment she touched it, she just knew. She didn't call out, didn't call the police. She quietly placed the pen in a drawer beneath the family photo. She understood. Someone was leaving. A signal, not to taunt, but to say, I'm still here since Imani vanished. Latoya has learned to read signs, no. One ever teaches you to see a crushed leaf here, a fallen stick. There, a stray paper drifting onto the porch. Each small thing could be Entiet's unspoken message. Not because she's paranoid, but because with hope hanging in the balance, she must remain vigilant. Others might see randomness where she sees possible connection. To her, every small sign is evidence of a living presence, intangible but real. The case file may have switched to cold, but the police are still open to new leads. A young female investigator once asked, do you believe someone is trying to stay connected but cannot approach directly? Latoya didn't answer outright, but in her mind, she replayed that question countless times. Could Imani still be alive, controlled, unable to speak? Could she be trying to leave clues without being caught? Could it be someone impersonating or prolonging a psychological game with her family? Whatever the truth, Latoya refuses to dismiss it, because in a world where a child can vanish in daylight without any scream, any fragile sign deserves to be heard. She doesn't care if others believe. She said she must hold the thread between Kiesh, herself, and Imani until her daughter can grasp the other end. A neighbor remarked once, presence isn't always physical. Some people stay alive in how we shift our routines, how we pause at familiar places, how we stop listening to music at night because they remind us of someone. For Latoya, that's not philosophy, it's truth. Imani never truly left. She lives in that pen, in the symbols on Jada's door, in the sister's glance when opening mail, in the mother's silent breath each time she crosses her threshold. One early summer evening, students from the local art club painted a mural behind the community center. No announcement, no ceremony, just brushes, paint, and a memory. A portrait of Imani, her eyes looking forward, hair drawn softly, like the wind, her hands slightly open, waiting for someone to take them. Below, in white letters, we are still looking for you, not we. Once looked, not we remember, but in present tense, still searching. Latoya learned about the mural from a neighbor's message. She stood beneath it late in the evening, under a fading golden light. Kids were still playing nearby. Life went on, but something in the air told her Imani remains present, not in sorrow, but in hearts refusing to let go. She placed her hand on the wall. The paint smelled fresh, but the memory, it's always been there, etched into every crack, every fading corner. Elsewhere in the city, someone leaves a box of orange juice at Latoya's door each month. No name, no note. But the most recent one included a handkerchief embroidered with IC in pink thread. She doesn't call the police, doesn't open the box immediately. She places it beside the others, not out of fear, but because she knows whoever is doing this is holding a piece of memory. And sometimes holding on to memory is the only thing we do right when there's no certainty left. One night, Jada brought home a prize-winning essay titled, If a Friend Comes Back from Nowhere, What Would You say she didn't write about the disappearance. She wrote, "I'd tell them we've grown, but we didn't leave a space for them. We still have an empty chair at dinner. We still talk to you in our heads. And I believe if you really came back, you wouldn't be lost." Latoya closed the essay slowly. In her heart, she held a truth. She'd never said aloud, justice isn't always about prosecution. It's about someone not being erased from shared memory. And if that's true, then everything she's done, holding the mural, preserving the study nook, answering every question from a child who never knew Imani, becomes justice, quiet justice, evidence-free justice, the strongest kind, the justice of remembering by still telling the story. No one knows what truly happened to Imani Carter, but everyone recognizes and agrees that she deserves to be remembered, to be sought, to be called by name, as if she's still here. Because sometimes the greatest resistance against disappearance is to continue telling a story without an end.